Watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive, this is Trap or Die.
Yes, sir. Welcome back to another episode of Trap or Die Podcast. I am your host, Mual, Jamal Forge, man. AJ is on the way. Dre is on the way. And then obviously, as you know it, ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter will be joining us shortly as well. I want to get the administrative items out of the way while we waiting on the game, man. We actually, 13 days away from the NFL draft, bro. All this talk that we got going on right now is almost over with. We know what we about to have with the number 2 overall pick. You know, and then on day 2, we got 5 picks on day 2 with the 2nd and 3rd round picks. We're gonna know who we have with the top 100 picks by Saturday. Then we got a draft day party at FedEx on Saturday. I don't know if I'm going, but I know it's gonna be plenty of people there, man. And I'm sure they're gonna have the first overall pick in the building as well. That's what they usually do, or that's what they used to do. But anyway, let's get the administrative items out of the way. If you are new to the Trap or Die podcast, if you tapping in for the first time because you saw Adam Schefter joining today, man, I definitely encourage you all to hop over to that YouTube side. We do have it up on the Twitter side right now as well. But if you want to be a part of the show, make sure you all join the YouTube side. We're going to have call-ins after Schefter comes through. So once we're done talking with Schefter, we're going to go ahead and take some calls, just to debrief the interview. So I'm looking forward to talking to y'all. Utah, I see you in the chat. I appreciate that. But yeah, we're going to have call-ins. So if you want to, matter of fact, I don't think I did y'all a favor. Hold on. Let me make sure it's in the chat. Let me know when I put this in here. Let me know for those who are on YouTube and want to call in if it shows up. Because last time I had a problem with that. And I had to go another route. So I just put it in there. It should pop up soon. Hit a refresh or something like that. But yeah, we're gonna have call-ins after that. Right now, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you're on the audio side and you're listening to this later, hit that follow button. Give us a little rating and review, man. We definitely appreciate that as always. Showing some love. Hawk, I see you. Yes, sir. Trapper Dive. The original Trapper. The original Trapper, man. I've been seeing the love. Let me go ahead and get AJ in here. He just popped in. Boom, there we go. I've been seeing the love that y'all been showing throughout the last umpteen hours. I was in a 7-hour training yesterday, so I wasn't able to respond in the real time, but we definitely appreciate everybody. AJ, what's going on with you, player? How you feeling?
Cooling, man. Can you hear me good?
I knew it.
Hey, I'm just always cooling, man. That's it.
Yeah, nah, it's all good though, bro. As long as you healthy, man, and you feeling good, that's all that matter. But yeah, we can hear you. I think it's a little lag, like the regular lag that we used to. So I'm gonna make sure to talk a little bit slow so we don't speak over each other. But audio is fine, everything's good. I was waiting for Dre to come in here, but I think I can start with you, bro, because I think Dre is the notorious flip flopper, right? And we haven't had this conversation in a minute, actually. But last time we did a vibe check, AJ, you had Caleb Williams still coming to Washington. So I want to do another round of the vibe check, man. I don't know where everybody felt, where everybody was. That's in the chat. Last time we did a vibe check, but if you were on the show, you all did it, you all participated. But AJ, man, where you at, bro? You still think Caleb is still a chance for that, man?
I mean, the way everything is going, with the lack of like visit of Caleb Williams coming to the Commanders facility, pretty much seems like Caleb Williams has now become a lock for the Chicago Bears. But we are 2 weeks away from the draft. Things can change. Maybe that's something we asked the great NFL insider Adam Schefter about. But it seems like even he's convinced that Caleb Williams is the number one overall pick, because due to, things that he said on other podcasts or even his own podcast, that he feels convincingly that the number 2 pick for the Washington Commanders is Jaden Daniels. So, if that guy who is pretty much 100% accurate, that's the only way he really goes public with information, says that, Caleb Williams is number 1 guy, I think I got to deviate from my initial thought. A lot of things has happened since I even made that comment. Justin Fields getting traded, so on. But if there's no visit lined up for Caleb Williams, ain't no way in hell he's gonna be the number 1 pick.
But look though, so Jerry asked a good question. Shout out to everybody that's still checking in the chat. Again, we're gonna have call-ins after Schefter comes through. We'll take some calls. So if the link is in the description now on YouTube, you all should see there. But Jerry asked a good question. I'm not too familiar with. I know that the visits for Jaden, JJ, and Drake Maye with Washington is next week. But how late do the visits get? Can they still be like on draft week as well?
Nah, typically you try to stay away from draft week because like those prospects, they have other things that they have to attend to during that week, whether it be like sponsors, activations, community outreach events leading up to the draft. So if the draft is Thursday, those guys are pretty much typically trying to get their families situated and themselves situated Monday. And then Tuesday, they kind of hit the ball rolling with PR, sponsor stuff. The following day, community outreach, whatever. So, yeah, you're not really going to take advantage of those opportunities to have those visits. That's why in our last conversation on Tuesday, I was like, they're definitely going to bring in Jaden Daniels next week because that's pretty much the last week you can try to utilize those visits. And I want to say the following day, or not even the following day, maybe like an hour after the show, that's when it broke that Jaden Daniels was coming in on Monday, Tuesday, and then Drake and JJ McCarthy to follow. But yeah, I think that Caleb is locked at the Bears. Unfortunately, that's my favorite quarterback in this whole process. But only if Washington had lost a couple more games. And the Panthers would have had the number 2 pick. Unfortunately,
Panthers actually had a shot towards the end of the season. I forgot what game it was. They almost won a game, bro. That's the crazy thing.
I think it was the last game.
Oh, was the last game of the season?
Washington should have lost to the Patriots and the Falcons, and we wouldn't even be having a conversation about Jaden Daniels. But
shit, the Cardinals, AJ, we should have lost to the Cardinals first game of the season.
Should have lost to everybody. Should have just been 0-17 for real.
So for those that's watching on the YouTube side, audio, it doesn't matter. But if you're watching on the YouTube side, Dre is stugging it out, man. He's out waiting to pick up, do his thing with the kids and stuff like that. But he's no video. I know people like to keep the presentation together, but he ain't gonna miss out on Adam Schefter, bro. So we got to make sure the connection is perfect for Drake Maye.
I thought he was gonna be video in the car.
So the connection, he says, is a little shoddy, so he don't want to risk it.
You'll see me freezing a lot on here,
man. This StreamYard be tripping. So
how you feeling though, Dre? Everything good, bro? Oh, that's what. So look though, before you answer, you get your answer, and but we were doing a vibe check, man. So we got a couple of minutes before Schefter joins us, but we're doing a vibe check. Last time we did it, you flip flop so much, bro. I don't even know where you at no more. I feel like you on Jaden Daniels, but I'm not too sure. What's the vibe check? Where you at, bro?
No, I mean, I lean towards Jaden Daniels. I mean, I'm a big fan of Jaden, especially the dual threat ability and the fact that he processes fast. But I also like Drake Maye a little bit more than a lot of fans, around here do. But I'm fine with either way. Like I said, I don't have any control over the pick, and I just feel like it's two really good prospects sitting right there. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is what they do to develop this prospect. I mean, you can go anywhere and be a bust, but if you're in the right situation, you can turn out to be whatever your ceiling says that you can be. So right now, honestly, like I said, I'll lean Jaden Daniels, but I'll be totally fine and happy if they pick Drake Maye. I won't fight anybody. I won't hate the pick with whatever way they go.
There's one thing that I will say, and we can move forward. Drake said something last show that I didn't clarify on. I am a Daniels preferred guy, but I don't severely dislike Drake Maye. He's just a little bit lower on my totem pole. I didn't correct Drake when he said the level in which we don't like Drake Maye. I'm cool with Drake Maye. I'll probably be a little frustrated, slightly, and then I'll get over it. But
why would you be frustrated if they do pick Drake?
Because of my preference. Okay. Like I said, it's literally
that preference. Then you got a bigger preference than slightly.
But if I'm gonna get over it in a little bit, you know what I'm saying? I just think for once I wanna make sure that I can get my guy that I put all my faith in, bro. That's it. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
All right. So look though, here we go. I want to talk something serious with y'all right quick. Everybody that's tapped in, we see everybody. Again, if you haven't done so, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're on the YouTube side, if you're on the Twitter side or X, try to migrate over if you want to be a part of the show after Schefter comes through. There are call-ins. Again, if somebody's on YouTube side and if you don't see the link in the description, let me know so I can update it and we can have the call-ins. But with that being said, let's get to some real life conversations. AJ and Dre, the one pledge, if you all see the prompt, you kind of see what's going on here. But the one pledge encourages early screening for type 1 diabetes. Adam Schefter sees the impact. Make sure my laptop running. Sees the impact of type 1 diabetes every day because his wife lives with the disease. Type 1 can't be prevented or cured and can develop in otherwise healthy people, whether they have a family history or not. That said, anyone can be screened through a blood test that can detect type 1 diabetes before any notable symptoms arise, potentially providing time to plan and prepare. Joining us right now is ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter. Adam, again, is an ambassador for the One Pledge alongside superstar Usher. For anybody that's interested, the link is in the description. It takes you straight to the Type 1 Pledge website. You can also see it in the prompt to where to go. But before we talk ball, Adam, I appreciate you joining us. I appreciate you giving us some of your time today. I know it's always a busy time for you, but we appreciate you giving us some time today. Can you tell us a little bit more information about the Type 1 pledge and how our listeners can be active as well as getting streams.
Well, I appreciate you saying all that. Thank you very much. And basically,
Absolutely.
it's an important cause. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. And I am a spokesperson for Sanofi and the One Pledge movement. And screening for type 1 diabetes is important. Type 1 diabetes, as you mentioned, can't be prevented because it's an autoimmune disease, but it can be detected early. And I'm all about information. And people should get that information as early as they can, which is why they should meet with their doctors to learn more. You could just go to theonepledge.com, theonepledge.com for more information. And again, we're just trying to get people educated, screened, tested, and trying to basically create a little bit of a movement here.
Absolutely. AJ, Dre, let's go ahead and kind of get into the meat of the conversation here. Adam, I think you got it made as it relates to Washington. We got over here have to, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I mean, man. So we over here have to live every single day, right? About who we want as our first overall draft pick. The battles that go on social media about back and forths of who they want and like these stances that are taken are incredible, and they can really drive some people crazy, right? But I think we're in a good space here because you are a non-biased, objective person in this battle, but you also you have a lot of information and you have a much more deep depth understanding of this draft and the scenarios and the people that you talk to. Let us know from your perspective. You mentioned Jaden Daniels. You believe that was going to be the pick. Let us know a little bit further into first and foremost this 2-week process that we have up until the draft. Like how things can kind of fluctuate with the visits, because I think AJ made a good point when he started last show that this was a time where the decision for teams haven't been made yet, and I think it's a good point for you to a good time for you to kind of explain like why things can fluctuate, or even if you don't agree with it.
Well, decisions aren't made, but obviously organizations have a lean and a plan and a direction that they're leaning in going into the process, right? And I think going into the visits of next week, where they'll have all 3 quarterbacks in their building that day, Jaden Daniels, JJ McCarthy, Drake Maye, I think that I believe they're leaning Jaden Daniels. I believe ultimately we'll see how the week goes. They reserve the right to change their mind. We've seen teams change their mind, but I think they're leaning Jaden Daniels. I think that's the plan, and let's see what happens next week. During that visit, they could be so enamored with Drake Maye or JJ McCarthy that they could be like, you see this guy's energy, you see what he's doing on the board, you see what he is like around people in the organization, you see how people are drawn. Like, could that sway them? Absolutely. That's happened before. But going into that visit, I just think the lean is Jaden Daniels, and it's up to somebody, Jaden included, to change their mind otherwise. Like, Jaden could show up, be a jerk, turn off people, not do what they want, like, and things could change. Like, that's happened. But all things being equal, talking to enough people around the league, I would be surprised right now if that were not the pick in the end. That's all. Now, let's see how the week unfolds next week. It's a big week. It's an important week. They need to figure out some things and put them to bed. Do I think they have their decision? No. Do I think it's tracking a certain way? Yes. Do I think it's tracking towards Jaden? Yes. Does it mean he's the pick? No. Like, these things are fluid. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, and let's see if it turns out to be right.
Adam, real quick, if you can kind of expand on that, on what you know. I know you don't want to give too much, but what is it right now that you know that you feel like they like about Jaden or gives Jaden the edge over Drake Maye up until this point?
You know, I think one of the advantages that I have is I get to talk to a lot of teams and a lot of personnel people. And it just seems like the prevailing consensus opinion is that Jaden Daniels is the second best quarterback in this draft. I think there have been people that could argue that he's the first best quarterback in this draft. I think Drake Maye's got a lot of support. I think JJ McCarthy's got a lot of support. I'm a big JJ McCarthy fan myself as a Michigan man. I just think that mean, I go through all my notes from all the personnel directors and tell you what they're saying. And to me, it looks like Jaden has got a lot of support to be the second quarterback picked in this draft. I think Washington sees, by the way, it's not like somebody from Washington said to me, hey, we're leaning towards Jaden Daniels. I'm adding up all the things that you kind of hear along the way, process all the information you get along the way. And to me, again, as I've said, the signs point to Jaden Daniels. Let's see if it turns out to be right.
AJ.
So Adam, I guess what I want to ask you is because, like, as you know, with this fan base and under the tenure of owner Daniel Snyder, there was a lot of things that were coming out where he kind of controlled draft free agency process, whether it be under the likes of a Vinny Serrato, Scott McLuhan, and Bruce Allen. With this new tenure and this new pairing of Dan Quinn and Adam Peters alongside the new ownership group led by Josh Harris, how do you feel like they're going to work in collaboration in regards to this draft, as many people have seen the hire of a Cliff Kingsbury as the offensive coordinator who, you know, kind of flipped from the Raiders to the Commanders? How much input do you think a positional coach such as a Cliff Kingsbury could have in those conversations with Dan Quinn and Adam Peters and the quarterback that he prefers, whether that be a Jaden Daniels, JJ McCarthy, or Drake Maye?
Well, I think he's got input. There's no doubt about that. I think that they all do. You know, Josh Harris isn't paying $6.05 billion and just sitting by idly and letting everybody just run the ship. Do I think that he'll get to weigh in at certain spots where it matters? Yes, but I think he entrusts his football people to do what they're supposed to do. And that means Adam Peters is the general manager. He's running that board. It means that Dan Quinn's the head coach. He brings his head coach experience. Cliff Kingsbury brings the knowledge he has of players. I think it's a collaborative process. And people want to somehow think, okay, well, it comes from this guy. He's doing No, I think, you know, the wise organizations take information from everybody, and they take the opinions and thoughts from everybody, and they make a collective decision that they believe will be best for the organization. They may be in the fourth round, and there may be a defensive coach who pounds the table for a certain pass rusher, and they're like, I believe in this guy. And then they may have enough faith in that coach. They say, you know what? We like this guy. The GM likes the guy. The coach likes the guy. And we got the defensive line coach pounding the table. So we'll take him. Like, every decision can be different. It's not like it's some formula that they follow. But I do believe in the end that everybody's collaborating to come up with what they believe is the best decision for this team going forward.
What do you think about around this time of year, like the general misconceptions, just generally speaking, not necessarily quarterback related, but like when you get kind of close to this area, this time of the year, like there's a lot of misinformation being put out. And I guess from your perspective and knowing that you have the solid context around the NFL, and you mentioned that's just one of your special advantage that you have, like how do you kind of factor in, I guess from our perspective, like where these bits and pieces of information is coming from? And what I'm thinking about, JJ McCarthy, essentially, this isn't that I disbelieve everything about JJ, but it kind of came out of nowhere when it just came down to Jaden and Drake for some time, and then he shot up through the roof. I do understand that sometimes the public is behind on what the league is thinking, but like, how does that kind of work when you talk about some of these prospects who kind of shoot up out of nowhere, and it's like the public perception had a completely different thought in the time?
Well, I went to Michigan. I watched JJ McCarthy, and I always thought he was going to be a first-round draft pick. And in fact, I went so far as in December or January with my friends. We were on a text chain, a dozen of us from Michigan, and I told them, you know, one of them was like, "Why would JJ McCarthy come out? Why would he come out when he's going to be a mid-round pick?" I'm like, "He's not going to be a mid-round pick. He's going to be a first-round pick." And they're like, "He's not going to be." I'm like, "He's going to be a first-round pick." Now, I will say that I think nobody thought that he'd be rising up here to where all of a sudden, you know, he's been talked about as a top 5, top 10 pick. I think that is a little surprising potentially, but people do their work, and let's see ultimately where he goes. He might go 4. He might go 5. He might go 3. He could go 11, right? But I think we would agree that his range is somewhere between picks 3 and 11. The process determines where he's going to go. Again, I always thought he was going to be a 1. It's a little bit higher than I thought it would be, but you know what? He's a quarterback. And there's always players in a draft who go higher than you would expect, and there are players that go lower. JJ just happens to play a high-profile position where there's a lot of discussion, a lot of scrutiny, where people are talking about that all the time. So you're hearing a lot of JJ McCarthy talk, and in fact, he becomes one of the central figures in this upcoming draft because we all know and believe and expect that there's going to be quarterbacks that go 1, 2, 3. Now, maybe JJ will be one of them. But if he's not, and it goes Caleb 1 and Jaden Daniels 2, the question is at 3, what does New England do? And they could go Drake Maye. They could trade out. They could go JJ McCarthy. We'll see how they decide to do it. But that's where, to me, some of the intrigue of the draft begins to play itself out. But JJ, to me, has always been a 1. Again, certain players' stock rises during this process. Teams look into their backgrounds. They see the intangibles. They see the film. They see the reports and interaction that a player has with his teammates. They go to the pro day. There's a lot of factors that either raise a player stock or lower a player stock. And in this particular case, it certainly seems like JJ McCarthy's stock has gone up some, but not all that much, considering I thought he was going to be a 1 all along, as did some other people.
AJ or Dre, I know both of y'all mentioned some trade conversations before Adam got on. AJ, I know you said something about receivers. I want to make sure you get that one.
Yeah, I'll definitely step in here. It's kind of a 2-part question. So one is one of the bigger name wide receivers in the marketplace right now who's up for, his 5th-year option to be either accepted or declined is Brandon Ayuk of the San Francisco 49ers. In my opinion, Washington has the need still at the wide receiver position. Have you heard any rumblings of maybe Adam Peters and his familiarity with Brandon Ayuk being interested in possibly acquiring him from the 49ers? And then the other question is, I want to say last year, going into the second day, Friday of the draft, you kind of begin your ESPN coverage with Washington seems to be aggressively trying to move up in the second round. Unfortunately, it didn't take place. But do you see them possibly being aggressive under this new group, trying to get back into the first round, using those second round picks to possibly get a wide receiver or an offensive tackle due to us expecting a major run on those positions in particular within this draft first round?
Well, here's what I would say. Number one, I had not heard Brandon Ayuk connected to Washington so far. That doesn't mean that something still couldn't develop and that Washington could make a run. But to date, I don't believe that there has been any interaction so far between those two particular teams regarding Brandon Ayuk, who the 49ers have said that they'd like to bring back. We'll see whether they can get something done and whether they actually follow through on that. Washington in this draft, and you guys will know this as well as I do, I believe they have 6 picks in the top 100, correct?
Yep.
Correct.
6 in the top 100.
Yeah.
So they have the ability to do what they want here and to attack this how they please. If they want to go package picks for a player, they could try to do that. If they want to move up and in the draft, they could try. Like, it just depends on how you view the draft and where you view the strengths are and how the 100th player on your board compares to the 50th. So I can't answer that for them because I don't know how they have the players graded like that. But they're in a strong position here to make a lot of noise on the first few days of the draft here to be able to strengthen that roster. And again, that's why they have made all the changes that they have made and hired the people that they did so that they could somehow find a way to capitalize on all these picks.
Adam, my last question.
Yeah.
And this kind of has to do with Washington in a sense because Jaden Daniels, we're ready to buy our Jaden Daniels jerseys, but Minnesota's
Good idea. Yeah.
Minnesota has a pre-draft visit scheduled with Jaden Daniels, and as we know, they have the 5th and the 11th and 23rd picks in the draft. What's the sweet spot for them if they're looking to trade up for a Jaden Daniels or any other quarterback that is?
I don't think they're going to be able to trade it for Jaden Daniels. Again, I still think he's going to wind up in Washington. That's what I believe. And so if Washington makes up its mind that it's taking Jaden Daniels, the only way Minnesota's getting him is if they come up with some offer that Washington can't say no to. And I haven't heard that that's happening to date yet either. So it would take, a Herschel Walker kind of thing, like you're talking about, some huge offer of picks to get up to 2. And I haven't heard any evidence that that's under consideration from either side. So I think right now, for the time being, it's a moot point. But assuming that Caleb goes 1 and Jaden Daniels goes 2, then Minnesota's got to make a decision. Okay, well, do we want to go get Drake Maye? Do we want to go get J.J. McCarthy? How far do we want to move up? What's the price? What's worth it to us? If Drake Maye goes 3, how far can we wait for J.J. McCarthy? Is there a team like Denver or Las Vegas that's going to consider jumping up? Like, these things are hard to just answer in a vacuum. The draft unfolds and the calls are taking place and things happen in real time. So it's a difficult thing. We're talking about this contextually and trying to figure it out. And inevitably there could be 1 or 2 things that change the dynamics of the equation that night and throw it off course. But what's the sweet spot for a quarterback? I think anywhere between picks 3 and 10 if they want to trade up. The other thing they could do is they could roll the dice and they could just say, we're going to stand pat, wait till 11, not give up anything, and we're going to gamble that a quarterback like J.J. McCarthy makes his way to us. Now, that means that nobody else is going to be trading up to go get him. And if that's how they feel and that's what they believe, they could try that too. But you have to – but if you like J.J. McCarthy so much, then to me it doesn't really matter what the cost is. If you believe that guy's going to be a star quarterback, go get him. Go get him. If it costs you an extra 1, an extra 2, fine. If you feel that convicted on the guy, go do what it takes to get him. But if you're not, if you like him, maybe you want to wait and roll the dice and hope that he can make his way to you at number 11. That's a big part of this draft situation. It's not only picking the right player, but it's knowing where to pick him and knowing the value of guys and where to get them and not having to get like you could fall in love with a guy in every round and give up all your draft capital to go up and then you can't get your guys. So there's an element of patience here that every team has to exercise. And that's the challenge, is being patient while being aggressive, while being disciplined, while being smart. And the most successful organizations do that the best.
AJ, any last question for Adam?
I don't think I have any more questions, man. I just want to say I appreciate you, Adam, for coming on here, giving our show an opportunity to have your voice on here. Also telling us more about Take the Pledge 1, which I think is very important. Some of us that are on this panel, our family members suffer from diabetes, whether it be type 2, type 1. Yep. We know how important of a situation that is and how urgent it is to detect that in the early stages so that you don't have any other situations that play out. And there's even some guys in the league that you cover, such as Mark Andrews, that plays with type 1 diabetes, which from what I've heard, he has to check his blood sugar every possession, in a sense, before he gets back out on the field. So that's just all I really want to say. I appreciate it big time for you doing this.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you very much. And again, one more time, go to theonepledge.com. Like I said, being engaged with Sanofi here as part of the One Pledge movement, it's really important for people to go get screened. And if people could talk to their doctor about that, go to theonepledge.com for more information. That they'd be doing themselves a favor more than they'd be doing me a favor. So good luck, and I appreciate you guys having me. And good luck to your Commanders in the draft as well.
All right, man, let's go, Jaden, bro. Let's get the orders ready.
I think you go. I think you go get those Jaden Daniels jerseys. I think you go get them.
Hey, look, man, I'm about to get one too. Get one off for the show, AJ.
Adam, we just gotta make sure that his teammates showed up to his birthday party like the movie Draft Day.
You know what? When you get him, I think you get me one too. Send it my way too. Come on.
Hey, man, that ain't nothing for us. We can take care of that. But look, Adam, we appreciate you, man. There's not many times we get.
Adam been looking around. Hey, Mual, Adam been looking around like he got some news to break.
AJ, there's always something going on. You know the deal, man.
Hey, well, we appreciate you, man. There's not many times we get a Adam Schefter on the show, so we definitely appreciate you blessing us. Stay safe. Enjoy your weekend, boss, man.
Peace out, guys. Thank you very much for having me.
Take care.
Yes,
Thank you.
sir.
Take care, Adam.
All right, there goes Adam Schefter, ladies and gentlemen. Boom. I hope you all got some information from Adam. That was very insightful. I'm glad we were able to get to some of the lead questions too. Brandon Ayuk, that was a good one. I think that was your thing because Brandon was on the radar for a minute, but I don't know if we was really going to trade for him, AJ. But I'm glad you asked.
Mo, remember
I'm glad you asked.
last time. I said, has there been any connection? Because I hadn't heard the connection other than fans trying to make the connection.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just one of those situations like Adam, kept saying within this conversation, things are fluid. We kind of heard, similar stance of AJ Brown when he was with the Tennessee Titans, not getting moved. And what happened? First round Thursday of that draft, he ended up getting traded to the Philadelphia Eagles, and they used that pick that they ended up acquiring to get Treylon Burks. So I don't really know what's going to happen with the Brandon Ayuk situation, but I watched the interview with him, Shannon Sharp, and Ocho Cinco, and also touched base with some people that I know on that front. They expect that he possibly won't get that option and get an extension with San Francisco. But, I'm just interested in general what this team does with those extra picks that they have. Like Adam says, they're in perfect position to control where they want to go and who they want to pursue, depending on how they have their board built out. And that's the interesting part about Washington being at the number 2 pick, because it could dictate the entire draft. If Washington decides to pivot from who Adam believes them to go with, Jaden Daniels, and takes Drake Maye, yeah, that becomes a whirlwind for who either decides to stay at 3 or move up to 3, and that could change everything. So I just think that there'll be a great run of offensive tackles and wide receivers in this first round of the draft, and maybe Washington might be able to put themselves in position to get back up there with the additional picks they have, especially in the second round.
AJ, I know you had made the point earlier to Adam about moving up on a Friday, and I do think that if you're going to make that type of move for Brandon Ayuk, that it would happen on that day 2 and not any minute before the day 2. And the reason being, as you were just mentioning, the tackle position is such a big need, and I know we don't draft for need, so to speak, but this is supposed to be a kind of top draft for tackles. So if you want to make a move, well, for one of those guys, you may have to give up one of those second round picks if they're going early in that first round. If there's a run on tackles in that round, then they're going to have to use one of those second round picks, and that's where I think that that will determine if they will make a trade for Brandon Ayuk. You have to wait to see how that run of tackles go in that first round, because I do think tackle is a priority, because right now we have Cornelius Lucas and Trent Scott as the tackles right now. And I know Adam Peters was getting interviewed, and he said he was comfortable with those guys, but I think that was just GM speak. I do not think he's I do not believe for one second that he's comfortable going into the season with Cornelius Lucas as the penciled in unquestioned starter.
But look here, like, who would be the other positions that would be like in the first round they'll have a run on, right? So you mentioned tackles. Quarterbacks, obviously, that's the biggest one. Do we think that? So who do we think are first round prospects? We know that based on Adam and what he just said. Pause, by the way, I'm sorry. Link in the description on YouTube side. If you all want to call in gifts, we'll take a couple calls. I know Dre, you have to leave shortly for your kids, and you can handle that. But if you all want to call in, you can do that. Go to YouTube, hit the link in the description to join. We'll take a couple calls. Y'all give y'all thoughts on what he said and what y'all think about the Commanders' next steps after that. We mentioned quarterback. Who do we think are like the top guys? I guess the main question was like who would have a run, but I'm trying to think like offensive tackle is going to be a priority. I think receiver's always deep, but who are the positions that Washington needs, right? That falls off dramatically after like a round or two.
Well, I think the interesting thing of how Dan Quinn and Adam Peters have attacked free agency so far, as we know there's still stages of free agency. You still have amazing players out there such as Justin Simmons. I think what they're doing is they're trying to go into the draft not necessarily having a need at any position. The only real need that they do have is quarterback, which we all know with the number 2 overall pick, they're going to be selecting somebody there. I just think that they're going to play out this draft and see how everything falls. It's kind of like the year that the year that Jahan Dotson ended up getting drafted first round. We've seen how all these wide receivers just started flying off the board, which pushed up certain guys to be selected in that first round. We had Drake London go. We had Jamison Williams.
Drake London.
We had Chris Olave. We had Garrett Wilson. So, like, all these wide receivers that a lot of people projected to still be around when Washington had their pick, which I believe was 12, they ended up moving back, and now it was slim pickings for the position that they really needed. But that's a whole different time frame. You know, with Ron Rivera, they really were drafting for needs and pressed to draft for those needs because of the situation that they put themselves in. Whereas with Adam Peters, you can see that they really don't have many holes.
I think they got holes. I ain't gonna lie.
I mean, they have holes, but they feel comfortable with the guys that they've already added in free agency, whether that be retaining a Cornelius Lucas or going and acquiring a Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler, Cullen Farrell, or whatever to play rotational at the defensive end, linebacker position, Luvu, Wagner, this other guy, Walker, what have you. Like they have positions where we feel like they could get better at, but they don't necessarily have like a huge need in that regard where they have to force themselves to pick someone in particular, but they do allow themselves freedom with the assets that they were able to obtain to be able to move up if things were to get a bit interesting with someone on their board.
Dre, you got the last word, boss man. I know you got.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with AJ in this sense. I mean, and to your question, Mual, I mean, it's what I was saying. It's the tackles that you're worried about. I mean, I do agree that there's holes, but I'm also with AJ on the fact that there's not that many because they did address a lot in free agency. What they didn't address is a lot of impact players. So that's what you're kind of missing with this roster right now. Like, I think what the goal was to get a passable roster, you know, because from what Adam Peters has said, you know, this was, well, maybe not, he didn't say, but what we kind of took from him and how he looked at this roster is he needed to fill out this roster altogether because the roster was just bare. Well, at least for what maybe this coaching staff is needed. But what they did was they went out in free agency and they got a bunch of guys that probably fits a specific profile that they're looking for and that they can, you know, run with their offense or their defense. But the glaring hole is the level, or at least the tackle spot. I mean, I'm assuming that Andrew Wiley's going to man the right tackle spot. We haven't heard anything, you know. Yeah, we haven't heard anything about him or, you know, replacing that spot. But I mean, the left tackle, that's the big glaring hole right now. So that's the one, if you're looking at in that first round and that position starts to go fast, you have to decide if you want to make a move, because I don't know how many starting caliber left tackles are sitting there in the second round. I do know that there's probably going to be some guys that, you know, some people like, maybe someone falls, but I don't know if, you know, that guy that's sitting there in the second round is going to be someone that you can automatically pencil in as a starter. I do think those guys that go in the first round, you probably could pencil them as starter, and not necessarily because, you know, they're a great player right away, but just because you don't have, you know, a viable starting left tackle on the roster right now. And I mean, if they do have to wait until the second round to get one of these guys, then you're talking about a competition probably to start at that left tackle spot. And that competition would include a Cornelius Lucas, as much as us fans wouldn't, you know, like that.
Man,
so that's why
let's wait. One more question. Cause I just want to put this bet in there, AJ. You get your, we can wrap. Let's make another bet. Vibe check, man. Does Washington trade up at all with their first 6 picks? Do they use any capital to trade up at all back into the first round? What's the vibe check?
I
would bet yes right now. Speaking of which,
hey, man, hold up. Y'all boys got a gambling problem, but yeah.
No.
Do we gotta tell the people what you asked us a couple days ago, bro?
Nah, hold up. Hey, AJ, I think I just won our bet today, AJ. You know what our bet is? JJ McCarthy. You said he would not be drafted within the first 15 picks. Adam Schefter has him going between 4 and 11, man, or 3 and 11 actually. Adam said JJ McCarthy could go within picks 3-11. I ain't win officially yet, but I am claiming victory. AJ.
What we doing? Drinks, right?
Hey man,
Yeah, we doing drinks.
As Adam said, things are fluid. So hopefully that fluidity kicks in to pass the 15th pick.
Hey, look, man. First it was Caleb Williams. Now it's JJ, bro. He about to get let down twice. AJ is.
Nah, I ain't got no hate towards JJ McCarthy. I actually like him as a player, but not necessarily to take first round. But like Adam said, and with him being a Michigan alum, like even his own damn friends didn't trust his opinion on the fact that JJ McCarthy was going to be a first round pick. Imagine that, like. Your friend literally has relationships with all the NFL teams and representatives and so on, and his friends are challenging him. But, I didn't expect JJ to get pushed up to top 10 talks. Like, I just think that's a bit crazy. But we've seen crazier things happen in the draft, man. We've seen Christian Ponder go early in the first.
Yeah.
We've seen one quarterback a couple years ago get taken in the first, Kenny Pickett. 2 years later, he's now going to be the backup for Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. So it's like, just because you draft a quarterback doesn't mean it's going to hit. But, at the end of the day, we'll see what happens with this little bet I got with Drake. I normally don't lose bets when I make them. That's the only reason I will bet. But shit.
Hey, so look though, another thing popped into my head though. Like we mentioned JJ, like the prime area is 3-11. In Schefter's opinion, right? Is it possible, right? Possible. I guess anything is possible. So I kind of hurt myself with this question, but I think y'all going to understand where I'm coming from. Is it possible that we see any type of like a Drake Maye slide? Like if he's saying he can go as high as 3, JJ McCarthy, like how far can Drake kind of go back to like a 8 or a 9 or maybe even outside of the 10?
I actually think that's more possible.
I think I tweeted like.
Oh, you got disconnected.
Go ahead, about a month ago that.
Here you go.
I think I tweeted about a month ago that I thought that Drake Maye could possibly slide out of the top 5. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those situations where, depending on the team, if they fall in love with him, we think that Minnesota is going to be very aggressive with trying to get a quarterback. Drake Maye's high school coach was Josh McCown, who is now the quarterback's coach for the Minnesota Vikings. You just never know with these relationships and how they could persuade someone to think that they could get the best potential out of an individual. So, that's why the draft is so fascinating. It's one of the best reality TV shows out there. You just never know what's going to happen. You even see how they did the invitations for those that will be participating in Detroit at the draft. It's a small group of people because some guys don't feel comfortable that they may go in the first round. They don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to be sitting there all night with their family waiting to be selected or having to come back the following day. So it's going to be interesting in 2 weeks from now.
You remember what you said? Drake, did you? I forgot you got cut off.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, I do actually think that's more possible. Probably more possible than him going number 2 is Drake Maye sliding if Washington doesn't draft him. I mean, but the slide, it wouldn't be a Will Levis slide. I don't think so. Not in this draft. I think it's too many teams that's quarterback desperate. I think if Drake Maye gets to a number 5, that's when I think Minnesota will pull the trigger. Like a team like Minnesota, because I do think Minnesota is desperate to get up there. So I think that if he hits number 5, that's probably where it ends, but that's still a slide for him considering people have put him in this top 3 of quarterbacks. And if JJ McCarthy goes ahead of him, then that's going to be a little eye-opening.
You know what's a bit interesting before we pivot to the next thing? Gerard Mayo said publicly that Drake Maye has a lot of work to do. And they sit at number 3 in this draft. So you kind of already feel like that's not
that could be a smoke screen.
They may be taking some trade back options, bro.
It could be. I feel like he's telling the damn truth, and he feel like that's not necessarily an option that they would consider. So someone's gonna get aggressive trying to move up, man. I even think the sleeper team could be the New York Giants.
Yes. First off, I'm glad you brought them up, but I guess I'll start there because I didn't want you to forget. AJ, you was about to say something, and I had asked a question. But that is an interesting thought because you invested all that money. I don't even know if Dayball wanted to put all that money into Daniel Jones. Like, who would have been the culprit behind putting all that money into Daniel Jones and tying themselves like that? But even with that being said, the Giants need a quarterback too, bro. And where do they pick right now?
They're 6.
There you go.
Yeah, 6.
Like, you gonna bank on Daniel, or you going?
I'm just gonna say that's a good point with the Giants, because when you look at the Giants, Daboll, he's been there. This will be his 3rd year. He didn't get to pick Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones was his chosen quarterback when he got there. And it's been a couple of years that Daboll has worked with him to the point where he could probably see this isn't working with Daniel Jones. So they do need a quarterback. And this would be Daboll. I'm sure he would have a lot of influence on who this decision would be, which would also in turn really start to speed up Daboll's clock as to what he, how far he's going to last up in New York. Because if he gets to pick his quarterback, this is his 3rd year in, he probably has about 1 to 2 more years to do something with the Giants.
Mual, you there?
You muted, Mual.
I think your mic is on mute.
I am muted. I was saying, AJ, do you remember what you was going to say? I forgot the exact topic, but we had changed, or I asked a question, and you were saying you had hated something or you don't like something. Do you remember?
I don't even remember, but
okay.
Yeah, I don't remember. We got people that calling in.
Nope, I don't even know if the link is working or not. Yeah, I don't. I have no idea. But okay. I think this is a good time to press pause on the conversation. And circle back on Tuesday. Honestly, this is a good way to start our weekend, fellas. Dre, I know you got things.
Tuesday we got Jaden Daniels.
Don't lie to the people.
No,
I'm about to say,
if he get with Washington, man, we're gonna get him on here, man. Like,
we're gonna try.
If he gets drafted by Washington, definitely gonna get him on here. Then come chop it up with us and the rest of the Trapper Divers. You feel me?
Yeah, the trappers, man. But with all that being said, everybody who tapped in, again, if you're new to the YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, man. Stay plugged in. We're gonna try and get some more guests in before the draft. Shout out to Adam Schefter who called in for a second and gave us some of his time. For those who are asking, I see some of y'all in the chat asking if he was on already. Yes, he was. But you can go to YouTube right now, play it back. He was on for about 20 minutes or so early on in the show, so y'all can check in that way. And yeah, man, y'all be safe. Appreciate all the love for the Trappers, Trapper Dive podcast. We will be back on Tuesday, man. Appreciate y'all. Peace.